In this video, I want to show you how to create distributions from the data. Distributions help us summarize the data by describing how often certain values for a variable appear in a data set. We're going to do this for both categorical data and the quantitative data. First, let's take a look at a categorical data. This is the soft drinks data from your textbook. We have here a sample of 50 soft drink purchases at a concession stand. There are 5 popular drinks represented here: Coke, Diet Coke, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi, and Sprite. In the book, the data appears in 2 columns, but that didn't really make sense to me. Usually you want each variable in 1 column for proper data analysis. We want to make a table that tells us how many times each soda was purchased. This table is called the frequency distribution. Formally, it is a summary of data that shows the number or frequency of observations in each of several non-overlapping classes, referred to as bins. Now in this case, the bins here are those 5 sodas. How do we know these 5 sodas were the ones represented in our data? Well, if you are running the concession stand, you would know which sodas you're selling, and those would be the ones appearing in the data. Now, suppose you don't know. Could we get Excel to give us these 5 sodas? Sure you can. You could do that by using advanced filter. What you do is select the entire column of data here. Okay, let's do that now. I'm going to start with the heading. And I just used the Control-Shift-Down arrow to select the entire data. Now I go to Data tab, then go here to Advanced Filter. Now you see here there's a checkbox for unique records only. So that's what I need to check. And then I want to copy to another location. Now where should I copy to? Let's try over here and hit OK. Here it is. The sodas here are ordered in the order in which they first appeared in the data. The original list we were given here was in alphabetical order. That's why the ordering of the 2 lists is different. But you could always sort the new list to make it alphabetical. Now we're just going to use the original list, so I'm just going to delete the new list I created here. So what we'll do is we'll use the function COUNTIF to count the number of times each soda was purchased. So I type here COUNTIF, and I could see that there are 2 arguments here: range of the data that I'm counting in, so that's going to be over here, and the criteria is, what am I looking for, what am I counting, and that would be the Coke. So range, I'm going to select from Coke to the bottom of the data. Then comma, and then the criteria would just be the Coke. So that's the value I'm looking for. Then close the parentheses and hit enter. Now I see Coke appeared 19 times on this data. Now if I want Diet Coke, then I would say COUNTIF, and what was it again? A2 through A51. Then I look for Diet Coke. But of course we don't want to keep typing the same function over and over, so we want to type it once and copy it down. So let's start over. Let's go here, COUNTIF. Now A2 through A51. Now what is it I need to do now? Now I'm going to copy this formula down, and I want to make sure as I copy it down, the row reference, like from row 2 through row 51, and that reference doesn't change. Usually if I copy down this function to the rest of the rows, the row reference will change relative to where it's copied to. So for instance, if I copy this down to next row, then the cell reference here will change to A3 through A52. So I want to keep that from happening, so I need to use the absolute reference. Now what is a shortcut key for the absolute reference? It is F4, function key F4. So I hit that. Now I get the dollar signs embedded in my cell reference. Now if you have the Mac, then you would want to use a shortcut key, Command T, Command T, T as in Tom. Now the criteria again was Coke. I copy this down to Sprite, and there is our frequency distribution. So, which was the most popular soda? Well, it's Coke by far. Now, many times we want to see not just the count, but the proportion or a percentage of items in each bin. The relative frequency distribution here gives a proportion of items belonging to each bin, and the percent frequency distribution gives the corresponding percentage. In order to get these two distributions, first we'll have to compute the total of the frequencies we have. So I'm going to put here total, and here, whoa, what was that? It automatically filled in the formula from above, but that's not what I want to do. I want to sum the above values. Let's put a boldface there. To get the relative frequencies, you just need to divide the count of each soda by the total count. And of course, I want the dollar signs. Then I'm going to copy it down. It's a good idea to verify that the relative frequencies add up to 1. So I'll just copy across this sum formula. Yes, they do add up to 1. Now to get the percent frequencies, I just need to choose a percent formatting for these values. Since I want the percent frequency in a new column, I just have to duplicate these here. So I'm going to just choose, put a cell reference there, then copy it down, and then just change the formatting. So right click, and there is a percent formatting. Now here I'm going to drag this across to get the percent. Well, I should change this to percent formatting as well. So we could see that out of all the sodas, Coke was purchased 38% of the times, and the second most popular was Pepsi, which was purchased 26% of the time. We can also graphically represent the frequency distribution by building a column chart. We just need to highlight the columns here, not including the total. Then go to Insert. Then go to this little picture that's supposed to be Insert Column Chart. Then click on the first one, which is Cluster Column. We should always label the axis in both of the axes. Well, first let's change the chart title to soft drinks. So I'm going to click on the chart title and then start typing equal to, oh there it is, the cell that has the soft drinks, and hit enter. Now here's my new chart title. To add the axis labels, here horizontal and vertical, we need to go to Add Chart Element menu. So Add Chart Element menu. If you have an Excel version that has this plus sign here, it's easier. So you click on that, and that's your Add Chart Element menu. So if I click on this, you could see, oh, there it is, and I would check off this axis titles. And you get the axis titles that you could modify. Now suppose I didn't have this plus sign, then I would have to go to the menu, under chart tools. So design, then go all the way to the left to find the add chart element. Click on that. Then I see here axis titles, and I want to label both the horizontal and vertical, but here I have to do it one at a time. So go to primary horizontal, and here now I could say equal to, I want to name this, say the bins, right? So click on the cell that has bins and enter. And again, for the vertical axis, go back to design menu or design ribbon, then add chart element, axis titles, primary vertical, and I want this to, the height of each column represents the frequency, so I'm going to here say equal to the column header frequency and enter. Now let's take a look at a quantitative data set. This time, let's say an accounting firm just finished year-end audits for a bunch of clients. They wanted to get an idea of the times it took for these auditing jobs. They took a sample of 20 audits they did and recorded the number of days that were taken. So the resulting year-end audit times are shown here in days. First, what we could do is sort this data. We could see that lowest value was 12 and the highest value was 33. To speak of frequencies with quantitative variable like this, it doesn't make sense to get the frequency for each unique value. What we should do is create bins that will represent intervals of values like maybe 1 to 10, 11 to 20, and so forth, and count how many values fall in each bin or the interval. Now, how do we determine the appropriate bins? The general guideline is to use between 5 and 20 bins. Now, the data we have here has only 20 values, so let's go with a small number. Let's say 5 bins. To show how wide each bin should be, we could use this formula for approximate bin width. Now remember, largest value here was 33 and the smallest value was 12, and the number of bins we want is 5, so 33 minus 12 divided by 5 is 4.2. So any value that's kind of close to 4.2 will be fine. So I'm going to choose the bin width of 5. Since the lowest value is 12, the first bin might start at 10, and since the highest value is 33, the last bin might end at 35, so it might look something like this. 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 30, and 30 to 35. But we have to make clear which bin should get the values like 15 that are at the upper limit of one bin and the lower limit of the next bin. It turns out the correct thing is for each bin to include the lower limit, but not the upper limit. So it's kind of like this. The value should be greater than or equal to the lower limit, but less than the upper limit. So the bins would look more like this: 10 through 14, then 15 through 19, 20 through 24, and so forth. So we're going to set up these bins in the two columns here, lower and the upper limits. 10, 14, and 15, and then 19. Now, if I select these two rows and copy this way, it should work, right? Right, so that worked. Now we could build a frequency distribution counting how many observations fall into each bin. If you have Excel version for Windows or Excel 2016 for Mac, then you could use Analysis Toolpack that comes with Excel. to generate the histogram. To load this add-in, you need to follow these steps. Click on File, then on Options, then click on Add-ins on the left panel. Now go to the bottom here, make sure in this box it says Excel Add-ins, then hit Go. Now you see a list of add-ins that are available, and what you need to do is make sure Analysis Tool Pack is checked off. Then hit OK. Now you should be able to find the Analysis Tool Pack in the Data ribbon. So click on Data, and actually you want to find Data Analysis over here in the Analysis group. Now you could see here histogram. Now click on OK. You could see here what you need to enter in that histogram dialog box. So I will be including the labels. Go to Input Range, including the label, select the data, bin range, upper limit, and you could put the histogram either on a new worksheet or somewhere in a current sheet. So I'm going to put it somewhere over here. So I'm going to click on Output Range. And here I have to be careful because the input range is selected right now, but I don't want to change that. I want to specify here the output range. So I got to make sure to click on this box and then select where I want the output to go. I'm going to select E1. The output is going to have two columns, the bins and the frequencies. And of course I want the histogram, so I gotta make sure to check off the chart output. So that's what will give me the histogram. Now there are some other interesting things too. If you want the cumulative distribution, you could check that off. And if you want the histogram sorted, that is if you want the most frequent bin first, followed by the second and third and so forth, that would be a Pareto chart, then you'll want to check on this. But then the order of the bins will be mixed up. So I'm not going to do that this time. Just want the plain old histogram. There is the result. So we will fix up this histogram. I'm going to get rid of the frequency, the legend. I'm going to fix the gap width 0. Then go to the paint bucket, border solid line. It is black. Okay. Then I fix the labels for the horizontal axis. Well, let's just copy and paste. The last thing I want to make sure everybody knows about the cumulative frequencies. Cumulative distribution shows you the frequency of values that are less than or equal to the upper limit. So, count of the values up to that point. So we'd ask, well, how many values are less than or equal to 14? And that would be 4. How about less than or equal to 19? That would be, well, 4 plus 8 here. That's 12. And less than or equal to 24. It would be 12 plus 5 is 17. And so on. And let's finish that with the Excel formula. So here I would just click on the 4. Then add 4, and then 8. Then copy down this formula. And of course, we should end up with the 20 at the end, total number of the values. And we could always get the cumulative relative frequency by dividing these values by